It's Momo Monday, live with Momo right here. His Fluffiness is joining us, right, Momo? Mwah. So we're going to do our breathing with Momo. Ready, Momo? Breathe in. And out. And breathe in. And out. And you will see that Momo is in a snuggly mood today, so I can move the microphone a little closer. I was afraid he was going to whack it, but he seems to be good, right, Momo? Yes, Mr. Cuddles. And we're going to talk about something that a commenter on Friday went, please, please, please talk about this. It was something I said, I'm not going to get into this. I'm going to talk about it on Momo Monday. And they said, yes, please do. I'm talking, of course, about the whole idea of gender non-conforming behaviors and what that means growing up and what that means at work and how to kind of deal with it, right, Momo? Because Momo himself is not the most gender conforming pussycat, right? And people get upset when you start comparing human issues to animals. And that's when I'm just like, I don't want to talk to this person, because you can learn a lot of things from animals, right? Because animals are decidedly no BS. Yeah, Momo wants higher. Basically, this whole gender issue is a question of how important is the configuration of your meat sack to your daily existence, right, Momo? And Momo thinks not much. You know, people make fun of Momo for being a bit round, and he's just fine with that. And I'm pretty sure it's in part because he lived outside for a while. It was his teeny little fluff ball. And he got in, it's like, I have food, I have warmth, I have no problems. And then the kittens came in, it's like, you need nurturing. Sure, you can slobber all over my tummy using nursing behaviors. Right, Momo? Mwah. Yeah. And it gets into this idea of equating normal and natural. And this, as a kid, for background, I was what used to be called a tomboy, which of course now is gender non-conforming, which sounds so much worse, doesn't it? Like, tomboy is a role that people can understand. It's just a girl who doesn't like girly things. Whereas gender non-conforming sounds vaguely like a disease. And I want to be clear, I'm not talking about people who have, who are dysmorphic, you know, body dysmorphic, or who are intersex, and these are, you know, serious issues for them. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about people who are, you know, there's no physical complications, there's no physiological complications, they don't have a third chromosome, some people do. You know, it's just a question of they do not behave in ways that girls are supposed to behave and boys are supposed to behave. And the world freaks out about this stuff for reasons that, having gone through it, seem really random. For instance, pants, right? We think today that wearing pants is the normal state for men, and wearing dresses is sort of the sex typical or normal state for women. Well, au contraire, right, Momo? Pants are linked to horseback riding. Not men wore pants and women wore dresses forever. As any mage in any RPG will tell you, men wore non-legged garments as well until horseback riding became the dominant sort of mode of transportation and warfare. But now, because we didn't live through that, bye Momo, he'll come back later. I'll go to cuteness now, maybe. Because we didn't live through it, pants became this normal state. And wearing a dress is now a statement, or wearing skirts are now a statement, because it's optional for women except in certain jobs. There are some jobs where the dress code is still, they want you in a skirt. Those are becoming less and less common here, but they still do exist in places. So what's normal is in a constant state of flux. And so it drives me crazy that me and a lot of other kids get forced into things that feel unnatural for the individual because somebody decided it was the normal state of being for this group we allegedly belong to. And I mean, women especially, and men, you know, half the population is women, half the population is men. That's a big group. So we're going to see a lot of diversity within that group. Prefer the alternative. I mean, I know I prefer skirts in the summer to shorts because there's nothing about shorts I like. They ride up, they pinch, they don't fit properly, especially the tight shorts. I don't like those. I don't want tight clothing in the heat. Ugh. Ugh. Bred for cold, dark places right here. So, you know, when I was a kid and my natural inclinations were computers and what were considered boys' toys, things like G.I. Joe and Transformers and He-Man and Thundercats, and, you know, I didn't go, I'm going to be contrary and like boy stuff. I remember my interest being, well, these toys do things. So a Transformer, you could transform the robot into a car. There was this vaguely technical element to it that I liked. And, you know, then He-Man had Battle Armor He-Man. Oh, Battle Armor He-Man and Skeletor were like two of the badass toys most ever made, right? So it's like, and it would change, you get battle damage. Cool. They were a more kinetic experience to me than the typical girls' toys. The two exceptions for me were Gem and the Holograms, because the sort of, to me, the rocker fashion was kind of space age to me. And then the little stands, you could stand them up and have them play their instruments. Well, the stands became hovercraft, and the instruments became weapons, and they started going around pew 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 laser beam fighting. And then there was this army of oodles, and they were kind of like, Power Rangers wasn't out yet, but the equivalent of the Putty People, where they were like the little minions of evil. And so Skeletor was controlling the oodles. And if you don't know what oodles are, they were these plastic babies, plastic naked babies. They didn't really do anything except sit there and smell like that, you know, that fake baby powder smell that half the toys smelled like in the 80s. But so it was them. And then My Little Ponies I thought were awesome because of the whole mythical element. And then they had, they had clothes, and we couldn't afford the clothes. You know, My Little Ponies, the toy itself was cheap, but those accessories really added up. So I made my own, and of course they were armor. So my, unicorn My Little Pony with the purple hair had some pretty badass, it wasn't construction paper, it was like regular paper. We couldn't afford construction paper. Can you believe that? I grew up not being able to afford construction paper. But when extended family and the parents of friends went to buy me toys, guess what I got a lot more of? My Little Pony and Gem. Because those were normal. They understood those. And to this day, I'm very careful when picking a toy out for a kid not to get them what I think they should want, even when it's the other way. Even when, they're really into a Barbie phase or a, kind of the pink section at the Disney store phase, and they want those. I'm very careful not to go, no, you're not getting it. Too often, kids get sent the message that what their natural preferences are as an individual, the things they just like as a person, are weird or aberrant. And that's not good for anyone's, I don't know if self-esteem is the right word for it, but their ability to trust that their own choices are the correct ones. And trusting your gut is a really important life skill. You have to develop that self-dialogue. And so that's why I think this idea on normalcy and the really out there argument right now regarding bathrooms and the trickle down when it comes to the whole thing about gender identity. And I get there are medical reasons why you might want to identify a truly transgendered person early, but we're not talking about this. I'm talking about people like me who don't really question my anatomy. God, that'd be a big question, right? Two big questions. But I have never liked what being a woman is supposed to mean, because that's not necessarily me. I am not someone who likes to sit back and wait to be called on. The whole demure indirection thing that women are supposed to have, the scheming and the that's just what everybody does. No, I don't even understand it. It's tough because it's really easy to say to a kid, "Well, be yourself." You gotta follow that up with, I'm going to support the choices you make in that regard. Because I was told, be yourself, be yourself, be yourself all the time. I got the lip service. And then when I was myself, all of a sudden, every female relative I have acted embarrassed of me. And I said female relative because, the men didn't really seem to care. They thought it was kind of funny. Like, yeah, that kid's got the stuff. That kid makes sense to me. But the women were all, and the implied thing as I got older was either, oh, no man's going to want to marry her, or, oh, could she be a lesbian? Like, those were the two inferences I got. And, my thought at the time was, if not being myself is what it takes to get married, I don't want to get married. And I think that's a healthy thought to have, because obviously it didn't stop me, right? But I'm really concerned about this now as the gender debate heats up, because despite itself, I think that the definitions of gender are becoming more rigid as opposed to relaxing the way they were. I mean, when I was a kid, gender was a lot more relaxed because we had gender neutral toy marketing. I was fortunate to be born in the late 1970s because I got the tail end of that. There was no pink Lego growing up. No, really, there was no pink Lego growing up. I think I benefited from that. I do. I had conflicts regarding not girling right, womaning wrong, as I joke about now, but it wasn't the intense questioning critical parts of identity that's going on now. And it's not like transgendered people, or as they were called back then, transsexuals did not exist back then. It just, no one felt the need to enshrine in law what bathrooms those people used. It's not like their lives were easy. They got beat up and really stigmatized. But we had characters on TV, like that character on MASH who dressed like a woman to get out of the military. Right now, that would be considered so non-PC. But I am really concerned that this culture war regarding gender identity is putting intense pressure on young people to make hard and fast decisions on things that evolve throughout your lives. I am far more comfortable with feminine things now as I've gotten older because I'm not judged as harshly because of them. And I know some people are thinking, oh, you were judged more harshly on gender-based identity stuff? Yeah. It's been this ridiculous thing my entire life. And I think it's so silly because the fashion for men, you put on a suit. Like, I understand there are cheap suits and not so cheap suits and all that stuff, and that's very real, but you put on a suit, you're pretty much decent, right? It's way less complicated than the stupid jumping through hoops that women have to do. Is a skirt or pants better? Is this too formal? Is it not too formal? Am I showing too much skin? Am I not showing enough skin? Do I seem too frumpy? And this is a distraction. This is energy and thought. This is CPU load in, our wetware. And all I can say to the person who asked about this topic is it is a choice to buy into that. It's also a choice, and it's a valid choice to buy into that. There are a lot of doors that are going to open to you if you learn to play that game. But it is also a choice to reject that and say, I'm just going to be me. Now, what I don't suggest you do is totally politicize your individual choice, because some people go too far and they don't do things precisely because of the gender politics of it. And that is controlling you as much as just totally conforming to, masculine or feminine ideals. If you're not doing something just because it's associated with masculinity or femininity, it is controlling you as much as affirmatively doing something for that reason. So, there are going to be consequences to making your own decisions on these matters. But in the end, if a door closes because a company or a powerful individual has rejected you based on aesthetic decisions that really are not connected to morality, and I say this as someone who's had it happen a lot, that gives you the opportunity to go and find something that works and something you're going to be happy at and something you can stick to. Because the alternative, well, it seems, and it is super important to get that job in the short term, you're going to be miserable at it outside a year. And Momo's back now. Fluffiness, to close off, you have Momo. And you'll see I changed my lipsticks. My Ipsy bag came. Yay! I love Ipsy. If you know what Ipsy is, it's a monthly cosmetic sample thing. My favorite thing is the matte lip gloss I got this week, right, Momo? Momo likes it too. Yeah. But when I first started Ipsy, this is joys of being gender non-conforming by, as a rule, when I first got Ipsy, I was like, on Facebook, and I started sharing everything and reviewing the products and everything like that, and 3 different people thought I'd been hacked. Like, seriously thought I'd been hacked. They messaged me going, are you okay? I think your account's been compromised. I'm like, no. Because it just generated like 15 different messages to my Facebook page. And I didn't know. It's just, no, that was just Ipsy barfing. And I felt kind of bad because, like, I happen to like makeup. And I really like Ipsy because it allows you to sort of refresh your color palette without having to do a ton of research. It's like, oh, what have we got this week? Oh, this is the blush that's in right now? Awesome. I will use that blush. This is the lipstick that's in right now? Awesome. I will use this lipstick. And I also discovered a skincare line made by the woman who was, what was it, Vipra on Power Rangers, which I think is pretty cool. So, this is my point. I can like video games and I can like makeup. I should not have to choose based on gender roles on that. Right, Momo? Now that yeah, look, Momo, just love. Look at that face. Look at that face. Let's do breathing, right, Momo? Breathe in. And out. And breathe in. And out.